What brought you to my YouTube channel? I already know the answer. I already know why most people hear about Nick's Shell for the first time. You are trying to figure out if you are losing your hair, right? And perhaps better than anyone else in the world, I'm going to help you figure that out today in this video. So I want to begin with this little teaser. How much of your hair do you have to lose before you are officially bald or balding? That's a question that I want you to basically carry with you as we do this video. Now, with a little bit of assistance, I've got my phone here with the cover that you envy. Admit that you envy that. And I went to a website called the Belgravia Center, and it does a good job of just breaking down what's called the Norwood Scale. Have you heard of the Norwood Scale? It's 7 different levels of hair loss, and you get to decide how far along that ride you want to go before you say, okay, I'm bald, right? So we'll get to where I'm at, but we're not there yet. We're going to start with Norwood 1. And they define this as minimal hair loss. Basically, there's like a juvenile hairline that you probably have when you're a kid. Well, this is just, it's the very first signs of your hairline going up, but it's pretty much still straight across. It's no big deal. A lot of guys, you know, like even for me, I think from the time I was 16 to the time I was 18, probably progressed and had the Norwood 1. It's basically just really no noticeable hair loss other than maybe some tiny, like when I was a kid, I had hair like growing up on the inside of my forehead kind of thing. And so that went away for me when I became Norwood 1. Norwood 2, it is insignificant hair loss at the temples. Even men that never lose their hair, a lot of times you'll still see some of this go on right up in here. The way I like to define this, whereas a Norwood 1 is more straight across, a Norwood 2 is going to be a V shape. And please don't confuse that with my hair loss, because I'm not the V, but it would be literally like this, and you would see 90-degree angles up in here. That would be Norwood 2, which a lot of people are approaching when they find me and watch my videos. Now, would you define that as balding? Because we're 2 stages into 7. And let's face it, most men throughout their life, say you live a long life of 70 or 80 years old, chances are you're going to experience some sort of hair loss. It's always a mystery. It's always a question of how far into this gradient you'll go. That's a mystery to us all. We don't know. It's based on our mysterious genes. But ultimately, you're going to get somewhere further along there as you age at some point, most likely. But just because you start getting to Norwood 2 and get that V and the 90-degree angles, that doesn't mean you're going to go bald. It's quite normal. So if that's you, even if you're only 18 or whatever, don't freak out about it, because again, it's a mystery, but there's no clear indication that you're about to lose your hair. Now, let's talk about me for a minute. I am Norwood 3. And some people watching at home are thinking, no, you're not, you're Norwood 2. I promise you I'm Norwood 3. Now let's read the definition of what Norwood 3 actually indicates. It's the way it is on this website. It says the first stage that requires treatment. In other words, if this is, I guess, the stage to get a hair transplant that we could do something about it. Of course, I personally am not going to go that route. I'm just going to go natural and let it happen, whatever's going to happen. But ultimately, with the Norwood 3, now it's going to be the letter M. Now remember, Norwood 2 was the V with the 90-degree angles. Norwood 3, which I'm at, or we could even turn me sideways, can't we? And see the number 3, right? So you got the 3, or you can think of it as an M. But what we're not having is 90-degree angles up on my hairline. We've got an M shape, like a Mickey Mouse, and it's only because of how my hair is fixed that it sort of kind of rounds off the broken corners. Because that's why when you go between 2 and 3, you have these 90-degree angles of when you're a 2, and then they start rounding off, and it makes me think of Mickey Mouse, but it starts rounding off and forming what I call the peninsula here, where it comes out further than the rest. That's the peninsula. That's Norwood 3. That's where I'm at. And most people, when they see me, they don't see a guy who's balding. In fact, I'm told regularly, Nick, you've got a full head of hair. And I don't have any issues accepting that. Now, granted, I do have some thinning which may or may not be obvious in this video, right? And here in this patch here, and then in the back, it is starting to thin in the back, which I think perhaps for most people, at least for me, reaching Norwood 3 also equaled the thinning. I didn't notice any thinning until Norwood 3. Back when I was 2, I was fine. But when I turned 30, 6 years ago, that's when I noticed thinning here, and then I noticed my hairline was going up in a different way than before. So I am Norwood 3, and most people consider this to be a full head of hair. Now, that all changes at the next stage with Norwood 4, which is, I think, for me personally, this is crossing that line, venturing into balding enough for me to think, okay, I am balding at this point officially. They said it on the website here is bigger pattern on your head, as far as it goes back further, but the way I like to define it is that this peninsula becomes an island, that it disconnects from right in here. So you've got this kind of patch right here. This separates from the rest. You've still got hair mostly up here, though it's starting to thin, but it disconnects from the rest. Now, for me personally, I've already decided that when I reach that point, I have decided I'm gonna buzz off my hair. I don't know, maybe number 1, maybe to the skin. I don't care either way. At that point, I'm good. I'm done, and I accept it and I shave it off. When will that happen? Because you may be in my situation. When will that happen? I don't know. I speculate that around age 40 in 4 years, I'll reach that status. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. It's fine. I've accepted the fact that most men go bald or bald throughout their life. They're balding. And, I'm not going to bite my nails over this my whole life. I'm just going to see what happens. But ultimately, for me, Norwood 4 is when okay, I'm done having hair now. I can move on with my life. It's fine. So that's Norwood 4. That's when the hair loss really becomes noticeable, whereas people can say about me, oh yeah, he's got a full head of hair. Norwood 4 gets into this territory of people notice that you're losing your hair. I think that's fair to say that that's a good assessment of Norwood 4. But see, we've now crossed that line. We've ventured into where things, from here, it's just downhill from here. The next part, number 5, is where you've still got a connection up top, but everything's starting to thin out even more. The island becomes more obvious, but what you're gonna have is you're still gonna have a bridge on top of your head that has some kind of cap on top, is the best way to word it. Whereas 6, the bridge disappears, and so now you're just completely bald on top. You're majorly thin, if nothing else, but you don't have that obvious cap connecting the two. And then by 7, at that point, you're just completely bald on top, the horseshoe, the whole thing. So, and I'm going to go ahead and say, people have different definitions of exactly what Norwood numbers are. They'll say, well, actually, and some people even say, well, Nick, you're wrong. You're not even Norwood 3, you're 2, or you're 4. People can't universally agree, but this is just a good general concept of the balding process, and it's called the Norwood Scale. So ultimately, let's go back to why you came here. Are you losing your hair? Are you balding? Find out where you are in the Norwood Scale. If you're still pretty much straight across, then you're obviously, good for you. Norwood 2 just simply means you're starting to go up here like this. It's a maturing hairline, but you're not balding yet, and you could stay that way most of your life. You get to me, Norwood 3, you're still good. You still got the full head of hair. You've got the 3 for Norwood 3, or you've got the M. The world's not falling apart yet. Norwood 4 and beyond, it's just becoming the island, and then you're losing the bridge, and then it just all comes off. So that's the progression. Again, please don't think that you can ask me, am I going to lose my hair? At some point, you're going to lose some of your hair, and I don't know how much, and no one knows. We can't know. All you can do is you can figure out a plan to deal with your hair loss as it happens, when it happens, if it happens, and find peace with that. Otherwise, you live your whole life anxious and fear and depression, worrying about, am I going to lose my hair? Am I going to lose my hair? Just go ahead and assume that you will have a plan for it. And if it doesn't happen, good for you, because that's what happened to me. I never thought I'd have this much hair at age 36, and now I still do. So I'm like, okay, I'm just looking around at the clock waiting for, okay, when's it going to happen? Because that's how prepared I am for it. I'm Nick Shell. I'm here to help you with your hair loss situation.